I think that all publishers are already educated with the in-game ads topic. In fact, everyone is like I think I think from my perspective, like 2-3 years ago, I had no idea what it is, and I think that now like everyone is super aware of it. Now
Well,
that
you're in a bubble, so yeah.
right.
Welcome to another wonderful session with ChatGPT, our podcast at Anzu. Very eventful days and weeks since we last recorded. Um, really don't know where to start. We have TikTok going up and down within hours. PG Connect is happening this week. We got MLK today. Um, won't go into politics. My name is Guy Bendov. I'm the EVP of Supply and Revenue Operation at Anzu. And we have two amazing co-hosts with us today. Sharon, start.
I'm leading the growth management team.
And my name is Mo. Happy to be here again. I'm leading also the growth and other initiatives within Anzu, working with publishers.
We basically Mo covers all of supply.
Yep.
And definitely sort of somebody we'll see here and talk with a lot as we cover more stuff around in-game advertising. What Anzu does. And, I wanted to talk about the maybe perspective and some of the, issues around in-game advertising in respect to the history. I know that, Sharon, you were actually an ad monetization person, right?
Correct, yeah.
So you're now with Anzu for over a year, well over a year.
Exciting.
How is it to be on the other side of the table from Admon to somebody on a network?
Big change, major change. It's interesting to see how stuff handling from the other side. Like it's totally different now to work like with several publishers, to see like how they work, to see other ad monetization departments. We really see that each publisher handles the ad monetization teams completely different from the other. And it's super interesting to see it.
Yeah, it's a different process to look at under the hood of the partners from the other side.
Yep.
In-game advertising has long history. It actually didn't start with programmatic. Everything we're doing today, I think more when you started at Anzu, we were doing some what's called custom integration, right? So without all the technology, we were just connecting brands into games.
That was part of it. And we quickly realized that we need to up our game and give a service to publishers that is scalable on one end and allow anyone who's paying for those impressions and easy to activate.
Yep. So the integration of brands is not something new. It's been done for decades. Sometime really to up the immersion. So if you think about cars, you want real brands. If you think about sports, you want the real arenas. If you think about people shooting, they want the real guns. It's all kind of different thing. As game became a bigger and bigger media, more brands wanted proactively to be in the game rather than the game chased after the brands themselves. We see a lot of simulation games that made that flip. But truly what kind of made the entire market different was mobile, reaching a lot of players. And this is where I think the evolution of in-game advertising, not only intrinsic, really started, right? You guys were also, right? I mean, running banners on games or apps early days?
Before Anzu.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think anyone who's getting into gaming these days from ad monetization probably spent his time either on web or CTV or generally in-app throughout the history of edtech. So introducing this now to game developers with brands behind it, it's a groundbreaking milestone in the ecosystem.
I don't know how long. I mean, did you actually monetize with simple banners, or by the time you started to do ad monetization, that was totally gone show?
Yes. When I worked on some, puzzles and bubble shooters apps, we did have like a lots of banners. But most of our work as ad monetization was to monetize the rewarded, to optimize displacement. Rewarded, interstitial. When we talk about like classic ads, we know all the pop-ups, the intrusive, and the classic ads. Um,
Why banners were kind of simple Joe, which you didn't deal with a lot? Is it a matter of value? It's a matter of optimization
Yeah.
versus the other units?
Yeah, I mean it's interrupt the game. Let's be honest. Banners, it doesn't look very good. It doesn't look sexy, and we did not integrate it in our premium games. It was something that we have only on the
Low end,
low, exactly, and the CPM was low for banners
right?
as well.
So value wasn't big, and
Exactly.
yeah. And but then all the evolution of rewarded ads and ads that are practically part of the experience, part of gameplay, was coming in, right? Which took a lot of work from the big platforms out there and the networks to find those unique. I think one of the big evolution that happened is next to the technical evolution is actually user experience and user acceptance.
Yeah.
Did you see that it's an issue? Did you test? Were you concerned that users are just not going to like it or going to act differently in the game?
So I think that it was easier to convince the studios to integrate more rewarded video placements, since it's something that eventually the user is engaged within the placement and it's not something that interrupt the user like interstitial or banner. And it's actually the same thing as Anzu, because it's eventually don't interrupt the user. Like it's something that naturally blend within the game. So it's very similar from this perspective, the worded and our kind of has.
Similar in terms of convincing the studio in the end to
Exactly.
adopt.
It's easier to convince the studio.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So I mean, rewarded definitely with taking the full um, screen, right? In terms of user experience, taking the full screen, stopping the game, it's something you do to gain something, which is good, but also in some games you're almost forced to do this kind of a move as a player. So you really don't have a lot of chance if you want to play a game the level, as an example.
Yeah. But eventually again, the user choose to engage with this placement. So,
I
from
think
user experience perspective, it's not
I agree.
very
And, on rewarded, when the early days of rewarded was roughly on 2012, 2013, and back then they were pushing a lot of 15 seconds video. That was the starting point. When we compare this to these days, a lot of the practices that ad networks are introducing on certain situations is up to 75 seconds video. Could be two videos associated, one video and then another video following, or even a 60-second video and then another 15. It really, you're kind of forcing the player to see a lot of content on a very long period of time.
But this is something that you can adjust within the ad network.
Correct. That is correct.
Although they're fighting it, even now, that idea of all the memes, all the jokes, although it does come from pain where you don't find the X where I
Right.
close the ad,
Right.
where when the closing of the ad, the X appears,
Mhm.
and where, right, becomes almost a puzzle by itself for a lot of players. And the reason is that players do want to skip the ad and continue to play. So there's a balance. Is it valuable enough for the game publisher to or the studio to end this versus running this, right? I mean, I'm sure that a lot of studios feel that with some ads or with some ad formats, people just give up and churn away, right? They don't return to the game.
I think what's also interesting here is those game developers, they enjoyed from the other side when they're doing user acquisition. They do like those tactics that ad networks are using to get those valuable users. But as a publisher, on the other end, same company might say, okay, this is causing me churn, potentially. So it's like a classic chicken and egg,
Right.
like how each company seeing the same situation from two angles.
So I assume you were working closely with the user acquisition team, because if they need to pay a lot per new user, you need to be less careful, let's say, with monetization. That when when users cost a lot, you need to be careful. When they don't cost a lot, you can do more with that monetization.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how did that work? How's that? I mean, did you sit closely on a weekly basis, on a daily basis?
Not
or
enough. Actually, not enough. Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess that every game publisher has its own methodologies.
Yeah. Like it's a balance eventually, UA and the ad monetization teams.
Some companies are doing both. You know, a single person is doing both for X amount of titles or games.
I feel that overall, when it comes to that, there's more challenges that people really appreciate, right? Everybody looks at the revenues, right? But those revenues are actually affecting, or those end units affecting a lot of other elements. One element is maybe if people won't see ad, they would stay more, they would spend more, they may see one ad unit versus the other, and they would monetize more. It's actually, it seems to me like a very, very delicate balance, more than we tend to think from the outside.
Yeah. And we always need to monitor what are the most exposed from user perspective placements. And we always did some small tests of changing the color of the button or changing the icon, or so many tests that shows great results. I'm talking about the rewarded placement. So yeah, always keep optimizing.
Yeah. Is there enough tools out there in the market for these kind of tests?
I mean, it depends on the company. Large companies do have large publishers. They have a whole team of analytics that monitor those kinds of tests, for 2 months at least for each little placement. But small companies don't really do this kind of tests.
Just not even A/B tests, just to
Exactly.
understand.
Just adding
Not enough
placements.
money is on the table for them, I guess,
Exactly.
to check this. It's all a matter of priority.
Mhm.
One of the extra thing that also a lot of people not appreciate enough is the privacy and legal element of it, right? There's more and more rules sometimes on a quarterly basis coming from all around the world. And then element of privacy, what players from different countries willing to accept or not willing to accept is really coming to play. Right? That's something that you've faced a lot through sort of the years of in-game advertising as standards came to be.
I mean, yeah, a year ago, it was the whole IDFA thing with Apple. But now, we have some new tools as ID5 or Livewire. That's
LiveRamp.
LiveRamp. Sorry. That kind of
Mitigate the
Yeah.
gaps.
Yeah.
Apple, we should mention Apple. Apple to cause a major earthquake, I would call it.
Yeah.
Back in 2022.
22. I
They
think.
started to push it on 2021. This caused a big, like I said, earthquake. I know Meta suffered for a short period of time of from these effects. They were not performing as good as they normally do. Now I know these days they are back on track. Everyone check their stock.
Yeah.
Worth investing, generally speaking. Not worth.
This is not an advice. This
Not
is
an
not
advice. Just following the stock exchange. And anything related to regulations in European countries, I do have to say that in the gaming space, it took them the gaming space embraced and those new frameworks like the TCF in European countries a bit after anyone who's monetizing on web.
Yeah.
Because of Google.
Because of Google, essentially, yeah. But now everyone, I would say the majority of game developers on mobile are adopted in full. They don't understand, I think, the implications end to end, but they are forcing this new consent framework, and they're following the new regulations.
Yeah.
I think they're led mostly by ad platforms, right? Because ad platforms are under scrutiny about how they behave, even though the publisher is in front of users and players, right? Somehow it would roll on the platform's head, something goes wrong. It's the entire legal thing. We might even do half an hour about that sometime in the future. Is one thing. Then the integration. We talked about rewarded ads that are part of the game. Now, in a way, intrinsic in-game advertising, when it comes to just showing a brand, kind of moves us back into the days of brand awareness. Some of these ads are not clickable, some of them are. Definitely, when they're not clickable, it's like a very old style of promotion that's sort of more we've seen outdoor or printed magazines or CTV now coming back. Um, it's a more basic, but really more organic type of promotion that everybody sees, whether they choose to or not. It's really becoming part of the game.
I'm thinking also, like you mentioned, real, offline events. When you're watching a soccer game, basketball, NHL, those stadiums are full with advertising, any sorts of advertising, and it's not like you're starting to see a sports event on ESPN and then you have a pop-up, hey, you have to acknowledge it. No, they exist. You're just watching your game and embrace the content. Versus here, when in-game advertising is running ads on a soccer game, the publisher still needs to follow regulation. But in the end, we're serving something similar in a way.
Yeah, a lot of the mimic of the real world, I think, starts there, right? But now, what really excites me is how this is going to evolve. Right? We've seen ads basically moving from banners to what they are now, and probably doesn't going to stop there, right? Where do you think, Sean, ads could go? Just as a thought, right?
Honestly, I don't know.
We see playable ads now becoming a very effective way. So again, it's a game within a game. It's been going for a couple of years, maybe a bit more, and the trend is growing. Do you see playable ads within intrinsic in-game advertising as an example?
I mean, it's losing the effect of
Yeah, no, right. And 20 years ago, people thought it would never go beyond being a banner on a racing track in a
right.
console game, right? And now we see that in a lot of different genres of mobile games.
Yeah. We might see it soon in VR or I don't know.
Go wild.
I can imagine a situation where playable will be introduced in an intrinsic in-game environment, but it has to be very opt-in. Very user needs to know that they're doing this. Kind of similar to rewarded video, but let's see where it takes us.
I've seen some, going to Roblox experiences where there's an ad, and when you click it, you move to another experience.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's a different ecosystem. This kind of idea where you engage with the ad, not to get more points or more coins, but really to move to another area or secret location or something
Within the game.
within the game, right?
Interesting.
Sponsored by.
100% cost promoting using existing intrinsic placement is a great way to promote whatever that is happening within the game itself. Sales, new tournaments, new areas within the game.
Interaction is good. I mean, overall, I think people are looking for interaction. It's another KPI of engagement, eventually with a brand that's promoting whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a natural, organic flow. It could take years for players and users to accept it, but it could go that way, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
As long as it adds additional value to the publisher and it doesn't cannibalize other revenue sources and other KPIs overall by the publisher.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game on type of thing, right? Just for us to be creative, for the market to accept it, and for publishers to integrate it,
Yeah.
right? Which becomes a different art. I think it looks like ad monetization folks, definitely on mobile, are going to have a safe sort of job, right, for the next few years. Right?
Yeah. Now that there are no waterfall anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't end, right?
Yeah.
There's always something to learn and something to do.
Right? I think that all publishers are already educated with the in-game ads topic. I think like everyone is like I think I think from my perspective, like 2-3 years ago, I had no idea what it is, and I think that now like everyone is super aware of it. Now
Well,
that
you're in a bubble, so yeah.
right.
I would claim otherwise. If you go outside, and you'll be surprised how many people don't even know about it or
Yeah.
don't know enough.
But they don't.
Monetization?
Yeah, not and monetization in general, but intrinsic in-game advertising is a fairly old new, right? It's 25 years on one hand, but then everything that is happening over the past few years is really revolutionizing everything that was done a couple of decades ago.
Yep.
Crazy. Well, in a way, everything that is happening now is just sort of we're on the shoulders of giants, maybe. Okay, there's a history. There's a long history. I mean, you look at the Googles and the Metas of the world, alongside Uplovin, Unity, Iron Source, and many others. It just sort of there's an evolution in change. Extremely exciting for me to be part of that. And we're writing our own chapter into this history.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting.
Yes, it
All right.
is.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll
Our
catch
pleasure.
up in our next session. Don't forget to follow, like, whatever you
Subscribe.
do, subscribe in the right channel that you grab us. See you next time.